From the VR Proud Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel with the very latest on Delta. The 4 o'clock advisory just came in, and we are back to a major hurricane in the Gulf, now a Category 3. With winds at 115 miles per hour. Let's take a look at it on satellite picture, and you can see over the last couple hours it's been strengthening. The eye has become more well defined out there, and as you see, it's heading towards the northwest at 12 miles per hour. That's actually slowed the forward speed down just a little bit from prior runs where it has been moving at about 15 to even 17 miles per hour. I do expect the system to kind of pick up some speed as it runs into a deep trough that's going to drive it off towards the northeast. So as soon as it gets closer to our coastline, I do see it accelerating just a little bit. And obviously, these are all things that we need to kind of keep an eye on as we move closer to the coast. You can see some of that cloud cover already fanning its way across the state of Louisiana. In fact, in Harrison County, already the report of a funnel cloud. They've already had a tornado warn in the area for southern Mississippi. So again, we are moving into an environment that's becoming a little bit more favorable for tornadic development. It means tornadoes are possible. We're talking smaller, weak ones, but still enough to do some damage. So think about that, obviously, as we head into the evening hours. So we're talking Thursday night, throughout the day on Friday, and Friday evening. Obviously, it becomes more of a straight line wind threat. High winds as the system approaches our coastline. So here's what we got going on right now. It's about 345 miles south of Cameron, Louisiana. As you see here, expected to climb to winds up to about 125. So that's another 10 miles per hour stronger. Same thing going into Friday, starting to weaken as it runs into some cooler waters along the coastline, along with a little bit of wind shear out there. See Category 3. Obviously, when you kind of zoom in here just a little bit, and I'll show you that the overall track hasn't changed much. We're still looking at landfall probably between Cameron Parish and Vermilion Parish. I do see maybe a slight shift to the east at the end. Again, if it picks up a little bit of forward speed, very similar to what we saw. There was that slight jog with Laura at the end or right before landfall. Same thing with Sally. So again, with steering winds that kind of drive things up towards the northeast, yeah, that's usually happening or capable. But you got to remember that we're on the northeastern side of this storm, and again, that's where you're going to really see the worst part of this storm. I also want to point out that the wind field is also starting to increase, which could increase the impacts here in the capital area. So Category 1, as you notice, latitude-wise, pretty much on tap for the Baton Rouge area or maybe around New Roads and St. Francisville as a Category 1. Obviously along the coastline, it should quickly weaken once it gets inland to a Category 2 storm. But again, you're still talking some very strong winds. What's the difference of 10 miles per hour when a system moves inland? By the time we make our way, or the system makes its way into Mississippi, it should already be a tropical storm at that point. And good news is it's not going to park itself. It's not going to remain stationary. It's going to kind of continue to walk itself through the state at a pretty steady pace. And all that really means is that we're not going to have to worry about those astronomical amounts of rain. So here you go, track models. Very good, very good agreement, obviously. You can see they're all on tap for the same area out there. And again, they don't really wiggle much, except for you start to see more. Once you get through Louisiana, moving into Mississippi, heading into the Tennessee Valley, all starting to trend a little bit further east, now towards the Carolinas and the Appalachian Mountains. All right, so looking at home, we're talking for us, we fall underneath the purple, and that is a tropical storm warning. That means we have the chance for winds 39 to 73 miles per hour. Again, that's just on the verge of becoming hurricane force. And I do want to point out there still is that potential that we could get a gust or two in our viewing area. Point Coupee Parish, maybe East Feliciana, East and West Feliciana, West Baton Rouge, maybe even here in the capital, 1 or 2 wind gusts plus 73. So again, it's still possible. Sporadic and more scattered power outages are possible. Power outages are definitely likely in the category when you do get those hurricane force winds that are expected to be driving through the Acadiana area. You can see it highlighted in the red. It's going to be driving through there for numerous hours. We're talking anywhere from 6 to 8 hours for an extended period. So again, obviously that prolonged wind is going to most likely cause trees to topple or limbs to fall, power outages, and if you run into power lines, do not drive through those power. Do not drive around them. Again, just turn around. It's the safest thing. You never know if it's a live wire. Also, in the case of high water, if we do get some flash flooding, again, never drive through high water. Never drive around barricades. Just take it extra cautious out there as you hit the roadways, because we're going to start this event as a daylight event, but then eventually it's going to transition to a nighttime event, and that's where driving conditions, and if you don't have to be out, don't. Again, that's probably the best scenario at this point. So as you see here, going into Friday, model indicating that we're going to start to see some of those bands and our conditions quickly deteriorate as we head into the afternoon hours of tomorrow. By the time we get to late Friday around midnight, I think a lot of the action should be pushing towards the northeast of us. And then by the time we head into Saturday, kind of settling down. Again, all models kind of agree on the same scenario right now, kind of moving in between Lake Charles and Lafayette, and probably just around the Jennings area, and then driving through that area across I-10. And same thing with your American model. You can see also here that it kind of follows that same pattern. Again, it could wiggle just a little bit east or west before landfall, so there still is that possible scenario. You got to think, right now hurricane force winds are at about 30 to 35 miles from the center, but tropical storm force winds are about 125. So again, that covers a great distance. That's why the likelihood for tropical storm force winds, well, it's in that likely category here for the capital area. Obviously, we're talking 80% or higher. The chance for a couple hurricane force wind gusts, that's also starting to climb a little bit, especially for our western parishes. So you're talking the Atchafalaya Basin could get a little bit breezy out there at times. So just take a look at the possible gusts. Again, there is that scenario, but notice what happens here kind of towards the tail end. Look at what happens with that wind field. It goes pretty massive on arrival, and then as soon as we start to walk our way inland, still pretty strong up to the capital, but right past the capital, it quickly weakens as it drives through the state. And then you see by the time it makes its way into Arkansas and Mississippi, that's where we kind of start to see it fade a little bit. Again, just going to show you another model out there, and you'll see, just to give you an idea, wind speeds out there. Right around landfall, you can see Abbeville winds 100 plus out there, getting very close to 100 plus in the Lake Charles and Lafayette area. Baton Rouge, we're still talking some gusts, 50, 60 miles per hour. And then as the system kind of rocks itself through the area up to about 62, and again, you can maybe even see some of those wind gusts in the 50s. And again, that's for multiple hours. We're really talking from those winds starting to pick up. I'll back it up a little bit, starting to pick up around, say, about noontime tomorrow. And again, we could be seeing some pretty sizable wind gusts all the way until midnight tomorrow. So that's a 12-hour span. So after a while, trees do get a little bit weak, and it depends again on the amount of water we see out there. Yeah, we could have the possibility of some of those tree limbs coming down. And if you haven't done so yet, obviously, make sure you take care of those trees and also clear the gutters out there just in case one of those limbs fall. All right, flash flood watch starting out tonight and lasting through Saturday afternoon at this point. You can see the majority of the rainfall should be a little bit closer to the center path, that center line, and that drives through Lake Charles, Alexandria up towards Monroe. But we sit in that 3 to 6 inch category. Localized flash flooding a concern. Chance for 1 or 2 isolated tornadoes tonight, but the threat a little bit closer to the coast. As we look at your extended forecast going into Friday and early Saturday, we jump into the slight risk category. It's mainly the feeder bands ahead of the storm, but that's where we could see those spin-ups and isolated tornadoes. If you remember Laura, we had multiple tornado warnings back to back to back. Well, same type of situation is possible. Obviously, late season storms, there's a lot of wind shear in the environment, and it doesn't take much for those storms to quickly spin up those tornadoes. So here you go. Taking a look at the storm surge, 7 to 11 along the coastline. We're talking Vermilion Bay around Marsh Island, all the way up to Avery Island. That goes all the way to Port Fourchon. From there, east to the mouth of the Mississippi, about 4 to 6, and our inland lakes, we're talking about 2 to 4 now, which isn't too bad. However, with a steady flow out of the southeast, again, we'll see a lot of that water push inland, and therefore most likely a coastal advisory. And you can see the storm surge watches and warnings. And that warning extends from eastern Texas and goes all the way to Ocean Springs, Mississippi. So again, that covers a very large area, the entire state of Louisiana. And just give me an idea of how much water could get pushed inland. You can see, I want to point out parts of our viewing area. Look at Pierre Part, surrounded by water. You could see a pretty sizable amount move inland. Same thing around Houma, all the way possibly up to the Thibodaux area. You got to remember there's a lot of water out there. And a lot of bayous out there. So again, a lot of that Abbeville could be under the gun right now, and same thing with New Iberia and everything around Avery Island and Sycamore Point. All those areas could be seeing a ton of water. And obviously, as you kind of look, Cameron once again could also kind of get inundated with a bunch of water as the system moves closer. So you still have a little bit of time. Obviously, we're starting to see some thunderstorms kind of move in this evening, but make those final preparations. You still have until about tomorrow morning. Make sure you bring in the outdoor furniture, the decorations. Remember, it's Halloween, so there are all those inflatable pumpkins and ghosts out there. You might want to bring those in just in case. Secure loose objects outside. You still have time to take an inventory of your home, trim tree branches, and make sure you clear the gutters and storm drains, replenish the hurricane kit, and also don't forget about your pets. Make sure you go to beourproud.com for the very latest. You have it, really all the information you need at the tips of your fingers, from school closures to government building closures to airport delays, everything you need. It's all on our website, so make sure you go there for the very latest, and we will continue to keep you updated as we move into the evening hours. We're going to be back on air at 5 o'clock on NBC 33. We'll be back on at 5:30 on our Fox 44 affiliate, so we're going to continue to guide you through this storm, through the overnight, and through the day tomorrow, and if it's necessary, we will be doing continuing coverage heading into tomorrow afternoon. Thanks for joining us.